There's no escaping it. Every business decision involves risk. Most people fall into one of two camps when it comes to freaking out about risk management. On one side, you've got the reckless risk, the crazy YOLO type business decisions, quit the job, take on the debt, figure it all out later. And on the other side, you've got the paralysis by analysis. I need more data, another spreadsheet. I need to talk to somebody else. Both approaches create problems. And in this episode, I want to help you define and measure risk while giving you the tools to manage it in a way that actually supports growing your company, all while keeping stress as low as possible. That's a lot. We can't eliminate risk, but we can make it manageable. Hi, I'm Matt. I've spent over 25 years building companies as a serial entrepreneur and helping small business owners navigate challenges and avoid costly mistakes. Welcome to the channel. I strive to answer the questions all business owners have using real-world, practical experience. Let me know how I can help. Before we talk about how much risk is too much, we need to reset how we view risk. Because risk is just uncertainty with consequences. It's not inherently bad, and it doesn't feel the same for everyone. Here's the most important thing to remember. Every decision already has risk. If you take action, there's risk. If you wait, well, there's a risk. And doing nothing at all is still a decision, and it has risks too. So the goal is not to eliminate risk. That's impossible. Some people think risk is either on or off, right? On being reckless, off being too safe. Instead, I want you to think of risk like a dial, not a switch. That dial is constantly adjusting. And other factors cause it to move too, but we'll get into that a little later. It's important to realize that risk isn't the enemy. Uninformed risk is. All right, now let's talk about what moves that risk dial. Without spreadsheets or complex formulas, I think there are three things that turn the dial: probability, impact, and exposure. First up is probability. How likely is this to go wrong or go right? Is this a known risk or are there unknown variables? If it's highly likely to work, the dial turns down. If the outcome is uncertain, it turns up. The second is impact. If it goes wrong, how bad is it really? Is this a temporary setback or is there permanent damage? If a wrong decision will cause the company to lose an important client, that risk is dialing up. And third, and this is probably the one most people underestimate, is exposure. Exposure is how much of your business or life is tied to this one decision. And this is where things can get dangerous. If this decision could cause, the company to fold, it definitely cranks up the risk dial. And when we put them all together, we get a clear picture of how risk is all involved in this decision. All three of them work together to affect that risk dial. A high probability risk with low exposure and low to medium impact is usually pretty manageable. That risk dial gets turned down to a 2 or a 3. Let's go for it. Now, a low probability risk with massive exposure and a medium to high impact, that could be catastrophic. The risk dial is way up, 8 to 9. We're really thinking about this one. So adjust the dials intelligently, and it'll help you understand the risk and make informed decisions. Okay, so now that we understand risk, what goes into it and all that, the next step is managing it. And again, this is about adjusting the dials, just not ignoring them completely. So here's 4 practical ways that you can do that. First off, let's limit the downside. Make smaller bets. Let's test before you fully commit. Instead of quitting your job to start a business, start at nights and weekends. Instead of hiring 3 employees all at once, maybe we start with 1 and it could be a part-time contractor. The goal isn't to avoid the opportunity. It's to make sure one wrong move doesn't just wipe you out. And that's how you adjust the dial without blowing the fuse. Second, we need to increase our options. Give yourself multiple paths forward. There are always other options. Force yourself to come up with 3 or 4 or 5 other options. And somewhere in there may be a better solution at a risk level that you can handle. Instead of relying on one large client for 60 or 70% of your revenue, start developing 2 or 3 mid-sized clients. Instead of expanding into a second location, maybe we explore online sales or partnerships or subcontracting first. The third is to buy down risk. Insurance, contracts, cash reserves. I mean, this might be seen as boring, but it's really far from it. It provides freedom and it reduces stress. Carrying proper liability insurance may feel like an expensive luxury until it saves your company from your first lawsuit. And building up a 3 to 6 month of operating expenses, retained earnings. It's not sexy, but it turns panic into patience exactly when you need it. The fourth is to delay without avoiding. And now there's a difference between waiting for one more data point and just endlessly stalling. Smart delays are intentional. Avoidance just keeps you stuck. This is like waiting for a quarter to gather sales data before expanding, not because you're scared, but you just want a little more visibility of the situation, or giving yourself 48 hours before you make a high impact decision. What I realized is that smart businesses don't avoid risk, they kind of design it. To the extreme, risk becomes too much when a single decision just ends your business or permanently damage your life or your health or your relationships. To keep myself grounded, I like using 3 simple questions. 1, if this goes wrong, can I recover? What's the worst realistic outcome? And am I risking survival or just comfort? Honestly, answering these questions can help you manage the risks you face and get you the best possible outcome. We'll go through them one by one. So first, if this goes wrong, can I recover? Now, this is not, will it be uncomfortable or will I be embarrassed if this all goes to pot? Recoverable means, can the business survive? Can you survive it financially and emotionally? The second is, what's the worst realistic outcome? Not the fantasy one. Let's be super specific here. This matters. It's not, I'm going to lose everything, but rather I'll have to downsize by a few employees, or maybe I'll take a financial hit for the next 6 months, or I'll need to completely start over and rebuild. Or maybe it's just I won't grow sales this quarter. They're all very different, but being clear helps overcome fear every time. Don't let your imagination run wild. Ground your fears in reality. Third, am I risking survival or just comfort? A lot of scary risks are really just threats to comfort, ego, or certainty, not survival. And there's an important distinction to make, because early stage businesses and mature businesses both have very different risk tolerances. Your personal financial runway matters far more than your confidence or your motivation, because if one bad decision just wipes you out, that's not bravery. That's poor risk management. Now, we can't talk about risk without also talking about a few common mistakes. And yes, I've made more than my fair share of these. The first one is confusing fear or optimism with intuition. Sometimes, my gut says no is just fear talking. And sometimes I have a really good feeling about this is just excitement without data. Remember, your gut is useful, but it needs to be informed. 2, letting ego dictate risk. Taking on a massive client just to say you landed them, even though you know it's going to stretch your team too thin. Or borrowing money to scale faster than your systems can even handle because you don't want to look small. That's ego turning the dial, not strategy. 3, ignoring personal financial reality. Taking business risks when your household finances are already tight, betting everything on growth when one slow quarter would cause panic at home. Business risk doesn't exist in a bubble. It affects real people. 4 is making irreversible decisions too early or too quickly. Signing long-term contracts before validating demand, hiring full-time staff before the revenue is consistent, expanding locations before you've stabilized the first one. These are irreversible decisions, and they deserve more thought than just being emotional about it. So be honest with me. How many of these have you made? Taking no risks at all often leads to minimal growth. Crazy high risks often signal reckless management and nearsightedness. Context matters, timing matters, and exposure matters. Once you see these patterns, you have a better reaction to risk, and you start making intentional and informed decisions instead. Here's the big lesson. Risk is unavoidable, but unmanaged risk is a choice. The real question isn't, should I take this risk? It's, which risks can I afford? And how do I optimally structure them? Or maybe, how do I handle the consequences if it doesn't go to plan? because the goal here isn't to be fearless. None of us are. It's to be intentional, smart, and decisive. As always, thanks for watching. If this was helpful, like, subscribe, and drop a comment or send me an email. I often look there for future topics. Now, take a breath. You've got this. All right, what's next?